All right, you guys. I have quite the episode in store for you guys. I'm not going to lie to you. It is a little bit all over the map. And the reason for that is I suck. No, but in all seriousness, I got sick, and so I got a little bit behind on episodes. And then really important things kept happening. So I kind of jam-packed a bit of that into the beginning of this episode, and things started changing, and we're just gonna get through it. This is a lot, though. There is a lot going on. I guess there's no way to get through it without just jumping in, so let's do that. To give you an idea of how long this episode has been sitting here on my desk, we're gonna talk about RFK dropping out of the race. Yeah, it's been that long. And also Swifties for Trump. That has evolved immensely. I swear, these were new stories when I was putting this episode together. But I still want to yap about them. I still want to run my trap. So being late to the game is not going to stop me. So we have all of that. But first, this is your reminder to like this video and subscribe to this channel. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure you leave me a rating and a review over there. I would greatly appreciate it because it really does help me out. All of my other social medias are linked down below, as always. And with all of that, my name's Noelle. This is Just Say No. Let's get into it. So before we dive into any of the stuff that was originally in this episode, let's address all of the stuff that I jam-packed into the beginning, just to address it. So first and foremost, at the beginning of September, there was another school shooting. This occurred in Georgia at Appalachia High School, and it resulted in the deaths of 2 students and 2 teachers. The suspect is a 14-year-old boy. We will not be giving his name on this podcast. I do not put out the names of shooters on this show. He is currently in custody, and details are still developing about this. I am going to be doing an episode later, not necessarily specifically about this shooting, but about school shootings in general, because there is obviously a larger conversation to be had about that. What I will say in this episode is it's abundantly clear that something has to change. And me personally, I think that change looks like security at the doors, metal detectors, armed guards, armed teachers, these types of things. And obviously, it's incredibly sad that we have to go to those lengths, and it makes me sick. It fills me with a lot of fear and anxiety, but something has to change, and this is the quickest change that can be made, and also the most effective change, in my opinion. You always hear people say it, but it's true. Bad people who want guns are going to get guns, and the best way to protect our kids is to protect them with guns. We have guns at banks. We protect our politicians with guns. We protect all kinds of places and things with guns. And yet, for some reason, our nation's most vulnerable population, children, we don't. And that does not make any sense to me. And I don't see another solution without infringing on the Second Amendment. People talk about red flag laws. Okay, what if the parent is normal and sane and has their gun and the child gets their hands on it? How are you going to prevent such a situation from happening? Now, in this case, it was something similar that happened, and I do believe the dad is in custody because of this. And I think that that's totally fair. If you're going to have a weapon and you're not going to safeguard that, you do deserve to go to jail. That I 100% think that is a fair result. But like I said, we'll probably talk about that more in a later episode, because I also want to look at the rise in things such as prescription medication, SSRIs, and how and if there is a correlation between the uptick we see in school shootings and the uptick in things such as SSRIs, because there's something going on. Something has changed. We've always had weapons in America, and the amount of school shootings has gone up a lot. So I want to take a deeper look at that, but just not today, because we have other things that we need to get to. Speaking of shootings, there was another assassination Trump on Donald Trump. By the time that this episode gets uploaded, that fact will probably already be memory hold. So let me remind you, because as of filming this today on September 16th, it had happened yesterday, September 15th, 2024. Reports are a little bit conflicted, but for the most part, what is being stated is that Secret Service was going ahead of Trump. He was golfing, so on the golf course, they were going ahead of him. and they saw a gun barrel sticking out of some bushes. They confronted the shooter. I believe that there was a shootout between the two. I don't know if he shot back or if it was just Secret Service shooting at him. This is where reports are a little bit conflicted at this time. By the time I upload this, maybe there will be more clarity. And then the suspect fled, and he is now in custody. But much like the Appalachia High School shooter, I will not be mentioning his name either. I do not want to contribute to the notoriety of these people. So again, we're going to be waiting for more information to come out about this. We don't know at this time. Again, I don't know anything about the shooter or anything like that. So maybe I'll upload an individual episode about this particular thing. But what I do want to talk about right here, right now, is Kamala Harris putting out her statement, plural. So she put out her first statement, which read, "I have been briefed on reports of gunshots fired near former President Trump and his property in Florida. I am glad he is safe. Violence has no place in America," which is just so funny to me. Shots fired near. That's just a funny way of saying that a person came to Trump's golf course to shoot him. That just is a funny way, because again, this makes it sound like this was an unrelated thing. Like somewhere else on the golf course, there was an argument and two people got in a shootout or something, which I think was a narrative going around for like a minute or two. And that's just not what happened. Secret Service shot at somebody who was there to kill our former president. And it's just a funny way of phrasing that, Miss Harris. Now, I also find it to be a weird flex to wish well to Hitler. Here's the thing, right? You don't get to call him Hitler. You don't get to call him a dictator. You do not get to call him all of these things. And then each time that his life is put in jeopardy, be like, oh, I hope that he's well. Oh, I'm so glad that he's okay. Because that doesn't make any goddamn sense. If he's truly Hitler, shouldn't we be happy that there are people out here trying to take care of that? Unless he's not actually Hitler and you're a fucking liar. These are your options and you must contend with them. Okay, so then she put out a second statement, which reads, "I am deeply disturbed by the possible assassination attempt of former President Trump today. As we gather the facts, I will be clear. I condemn political violence. We must all do our part to ensure this incident does not lead to more violence. I'm thankful that former President Trump is safe. I commend the U.S. Secret Service and law enforcement partners for their vigilance. As President Biden said, our administration will ensure the Secret Service has every resource, capability, and protective measure necessary to carry out its critical mission." Madam Vice President, the word you forgot is second. I am deeply disturbed by the possible second assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump, but you don't want to put that in there, do you? Because maybe if you had to contend with the fact that this is the second attempt on his life in 10 weeks, you might also have to contend with your rhetoric. We will do our part to ensure that this incident does not lead to more violence. Then zip your goddamn lips. Is it so crazy to think that calling him Hitler and a dictator is going to lead to people thinking that he's Hitler and a dictator? What's crazy to me is she knows that he's not Hitler. They all know that he's not Hitler. Everyone calling him Hitler knows that he's not Hitler. You know who doesn't know that? The morons who listen to them. The retards who listen to MSNBC, who are voting for Kamala Harris, think that Trump is Hitler. Think that he is a dictator. And if you have Hitler on your hands, does it not make sense to take him out? Is that not the logical next step? Curious, asking for a friend. But we're going to leave that there for now. We'll probably revisit it at a later date, but we do have to move on. So we got to switch gears and we're going to rewind the clock to probably about a month ago at this point, because RFK has officially dropped out and endorsed Trump. Now, he didn't pull out of all states. He pulled out of swing states, essentially. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that I saw that he put out a little video saying to vote for Trump no matter what, even if you're in like a safely red state. But I do believe his name is still on the ballot in those states. His name is on the ballot. I'm almost positive. On top of this, Tulsi Gabbard has also put in her endorsement for Trump, which is fun and exciting. I love Tulsi Gabbard. And the thing that I find to be interesting about this is a couple weeks ago, I saw on Twitter that 200 alumni of Romney and McCain and Cheney and all of these people have endorsed Kamala Harris. And I find that to be a perfect demonstration of the current state of things. A couple weeks ago, we talked about the DNC and the RNC, and I had mentioned that there were key Republicans who did not show up, people like Romney or Bush, for example. And my point in that is those people are the definition of being establishment for the Republican Party. They are the Republican Party equivalent of an Obama or a Clinton, any of these people. This is the establishment. The line between a Bush and a Clinton is translucent. It might as well not exist. And I want to kind of define what is the establishment because it is sort of an elusive thing. According to this NPR article from 2016, in a 1968 New Yorker article, British journalist Henry Farley claimed credit for inventing the term establishment in modern political sense. Farley had a definition that was simultaneously specific and amorphous. He said he wasn't referring just to the centers of official power, like the prime minister, but rather to a variety of other powerful people, including the head of the BBC and the Times literary supplements editor. To think people who are controlling the narrative, the CEOs of CNN or Fox, people who play the game with the established parties, Republican and Democrat, in order to gain power and wealth. Think of people who do not go against the grain and do what they need to do to get what they want and also maintain the status quo. Due to its intentional broadness, it can be hard for people to pinpoint exactly what it means, but for me, this is as close as I can get. These types of people, the people who are controlling the narrative, the people who are essentially, if I had to really pinpoint it, I would say the people that are trying to control the narrative, control the way that we think, control what information we have access to. That's it. That's what I got. And all of this to say, what I see is we have two people, RFK, who definitely comes from an establishment family, but has by all means stepped outside of that, especially in the way that he speaks out against things like war and big pharma, two of the big institutions, if you will, of the establishment, and also Tulsi Gabbard, who in her short political career also did things such as speaking out against the military-industrial complex, the big pharma again, and also she speaks in depth about the inner workings of the political system in DC. She talks about how she spoke out against Hillary Clinton and was on her shit list, this kind of thing. She speaks about the things that American people suspect are happening, but we're not there, so we don't know for a fact. She talks about the fact that you are, as a politician, expected to fall in line with the way that things are going, and they make you do this through things such as campaign funding. If you do not act the way that they want you to act, then you're not going to get the campaign funding, and that makes it almost impossible to run. So these are the two who have endorsed Trump, who has many flaws. Do not get me wrong. I definitely think that Trump has played the game. He has done the politics, done what he needed to do back in his heyday, back in his realtor days, to get things built, to make his profit, to make his wealth. However, I also think that he is a bull in a china shop when it comes to Washington, D.C. in present day. Now, I also, of course, don't think that Trump did everything perfectly. I wish he had been harder on Fauci when it comes to COVID. I wish he would have been a little bit more conservative with spending. But at the end of the day, it's coming down to Trump and Kamala. And if I were a betting man, I would take my chances on Trump. I am taking my chances on Trump. I would put money on it if I had money to put down. Because if what we want is to see change, then I'm going to go ahead and take a guess that the woman who has been endorsed by 200 people who have spent their lives maintaining the status quo isn't going to be the one to do that. But who am I? At the time when RFK announced that he was dropping out, the Michigan Secretary of State was fighting him on removing his name from the ballots. I do believe that this has been overruled. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I found this to be so rich for two reasons. First of all, because it was supposed to be technically too late for Joe Biden to remove his name from the ballots, and yet they managed to make that happen. And also, they fought RFK every single step of the way to get his name on the ballot. And now that he wants to take it off, they're fighting him again. Naturally, of course, why wouldn't they? And this was actually a huge part of his speech that he gave announcing that he was dropping out. They've pulled him into court. They've interfered with his signature collections. They've done everything possible to make it impossible for him to get on the ballot to begin with. And again, now that he wants off, they are fighting him on that too. I just go figure, you know what I mean? Like, go figure, of course. Of course. Is it shocking? No, of course not. And of course, you know, it's all coming from the party that's protecting democracy. You're protecting democracy so hard that you're not going to let the American people speak when they say that they want RFK on the ballots. You're protecting American democracy so hard that you're fighting American democracy. But that's the news on that. I'm sure that most of you had already heard most of that. But again, I like to yap, and I wanted to yap about it, and I wanted to get out my 2 cents. So late or not, now you have it. And speaking of being late on a developing story, I really wanted to talk about the Swifties for Trump thing. And my goodness, has this story developed. So it started off with just like this simple thing of a group of Taylor Swift fans saying that they're voting for Trump. And this sent the rest of Taylor Swift fans into a freaking frenzy. Now, but to fully understand why this even started, I think that we do have to trace it back to a couple of months ago. She had a show that she was supposed to do in Vienna, and it got canceled because there was a terror threat. I think she was supposed to do 2 or 3 shows actually, and they all got canceled because of this. And you had a couple of Swifties speaking out saying, I don't know that this would have happened if Trump was in office. And it spiraled and it turned into Swifties for Trump. It's actually pretty simple, pretty straightforward, because it turns out that for Swifties, it isn't inflation, it isn't illegal immigration, it isn't anything that concerns a normal American. It's the life of Taylor Swift. You know what? Whatever gets the lights on upstairs, it's fine by me. Now, obviously, the reaction to Swifties for Trump was fierce and fiery. They were pissed. To be honest, if I were Taylor Swift, I would live in a constant state of fear of my fans. They are so controlling, and every single thing that she does, they are almost a part of. I remember a couple of years ago, she put out a music video for one of her songs, and in one part of the whole song was like about how she's her own worst enemy, and she steps on the scale, and the scale just says fat. And if you know Taylor Swift, you probably do. She's a very, very, very thin woman. And so this was, you know, talking about body image and how even though she is a thin woman, she can look at herself in the mirror and think otherwise, which is something that a lot of women struggle with. And instead of taking that powerful message, her fans were like, fat. You just put the word fat on my screen. I'm triggered and I'm upset. And how dare you use the word fat? And I don't know what to do. And how dare you, Taylor Swift? And you're a horrible person, and everything you've done before this does not even matter anymore because you just put the word fat on my screen without warning me. And so, of course, Taylor Swift edits the music video and takes that scene out because she's a coward, and she constantly bows down to the desires of her fans. And I don't think that at this point she has any thoughts of her own. I think every single thought that Taylor Swift has is a byproduct of what her fans want. But I could do a whole episode on that, frankly, but we got to move on. Now, there were several videos posted about fans saying, like, I can't believe that anyone would think that Taylor Swift supports Donald Trump, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, how are you this stupid? How are you this retarded? It says Swifties for Trump. Swifties refers to the people who support Taylor Swift. She is one of the biggest artists in the entire world. Is it really so crazy to think that there is a portion of her fans who support Donald Trump? I do not think so, because a lot of people support Donald Trump, so there's bound to be overlap. But this is simply too complex of an equation for the standard Taylor Swift fan to understand. Now, I do not think that any of these people were under the delusion that Taylor Swift was going to come out wearing a MAGA hat. They were just simply saying, hey, I support Taylor Swift and I support Donald Trump. Now, where this story developed the first time was that upon seeing the Swifties for Trump thing, Donald Trump, being Donald Trump, posted a bunch of like AI images of like cats wearing MAGA hats and one picture of Taylor Swift. You know, the whole like, I need you thing. He posted an article that said satire right at the top, and he just said, I accept the endorsement. And this just made things so much worse. This made things so much worse for the Swiftie fandom, because detecting sarcasm is not something that they can do, apparently. And all the while, they are just waiting for Taylor Swift to come out and condemn all of this, and she isn't at this point in time. And they're just getting more and more angry and more angry. And so while all of this is going on, I love when we talk about stories like this, because I really feel like a gossip channel, and it's quite fun for me. So all of that is going on. And simultaneously, we all know that Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce, who is the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, is married to Brittany Mahomes. And Brittany liked one of Trump's posts on Instagram. And this caused a lot of uproar. People were super duper pissed. And instead of like saying like, oh, it was an accident or I did it for this, she just said, what's your problem? Why are you being a hater? Shut the fuck up, which was, commendable. Good for her, actually. And then she continued on to like comments in her comment section, things like Trump 24, making it quite obvious that she is voting for Donald Trump. So we can assume that Patrick Mahomes is also voting for Trump. Now, people were like, she's hung out with Brittany Mahomes. Like, how dare she hang out with Brittany Mahomes? This is a Trump supporter. And they assumed that Taylor Swift would cut off ties with Brittany Mahomes. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, they were photographed together at the US Open. And they were hugging and laughing. And this was like the nail in the coffin. People were like, I'm done. I hate this now. Just to give you an idea, one person on Twitter said, yeah, I don't care anymore. Fuck Brittany Mahomes, fuck Trump supporters, fuck anyone that sympathizes with them, and fuck Taylor Swift for acting as if she cared about political activism for just one album cycle and then dropped it once it no longer fit her aesthetic. And the pressure for her to speak out was ungodly. And I just, in my heart of hearts, I just wanted so badly to believe that she would stay quiet. That all she had to do is not say anything. You know what I'm saying? But she simply could not do that, once again, because she is beholden to her fans and she has no backbone whatsoever. The night of the debate, like probably 5 minutes after the debate ended, she posted a very lengthy Instagram post talking about how she's endorsing Kamala Harris. And she signed it, Taylor Swift, the childless cat lady. Haha, so funny. Cute Taylor, 35 and not much to speak of in the family department. I'm sure that you'll feel real great about that when you're 70. She is a self-proclaimed people pleaser, and I sincerely believe that she only did this to shut everyone up because she was getting ripped apart. And again, she has no backbone. I don't think she's made a decision just for herself since she was 16 years old. Every decision that she has made has been, how do I stay in the public's good graces? How do I please people? How do I do this? How do I do this? And on one hand, that's incredibly sad, right? It's an incredibly sad and stressful way to live. And she has been torn apart in the media her entire life. On the other hand, she did it to herself. Like she could have easily taken a route of, no, I'm an individual person and these are the decisions that I'm making. If you like that, you like that. If you don't, you don't. And she simply just didn't. So I don't have any sympathy for her. So that's where we lay right now, except for the fact that, God, Donald Trump, of course, had to just put in his 2 cents. And he simply tweeted out in all caps, I hate Taylor Swift. I don't know. That's just hilarious because of course he did. Of course he did. But in terms of if I think this is going to influence the election, I don't. And here's why. I don't know that anyone who's sitting on the fence is going to be influenced by what Taylor Swift has to say. I would like to meet the person who is like torn between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump and saw this and was like, oh, Taylor Swift's voting for Kamala Harris. What a shocking and unforeseen thing. I'll do it too. Now, people's argument is that she called for people to go register to vote and maybe that will mobilize voters. I don't know. Gen Z is pretty fucking lazy and so are millennials. So I'm just not certain that that's going to be the case because I think Gen Z is the biggest voter base, but they're also the least likely to go vote because they are lazy as hell. They are lazy as hell. And so I just don't know that this is going to have any influence whatsoever. But I guess we will see. I guess we'll see if Taylor Swift sways the election. But you guys, that's all that I have for you. I know that this episode was all over the place. Hopefully by next week we should be back to kind of like on time news reporting, but we'll see. Things never seem to go as planned over here. But I hope that you guys enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed hanging out with you guys. This is your reminder that I do post a second video on my YouTube channel every Thursday. We typically it's a reaction video. We just watch videos and chit chat about them. So make sure you are subscribed for that, and I will talk to you guys all next Monday. Bye.